Hello there everybody, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm Fanula, and as y'all know, I live, work, and garden in beautiful Zone 9B, Northern California, just a little bit outside of Petaluma, which is 45 miles north of San Francisco. And today I figured I really need to talk about a lot of the myths that people pass along to each other or you find on the internet that are simply not true. Very frustrating when a customer comes to me and tells me that their really well-meaning neighbor has passed along this information that is really not good information. And then they wonder why their plants are dying. And I need to dispel that myth and help them fix the problem with the plant. So I figured let's tackle 8 myths that are commonly heard in the gardening world, and let me demystify them and debunk them. So stay tuned. I am going to tell you, I just had to narrow it down to 8. I may throw in an extra 1 or 2, but once I get on a roll, you know how that can go. So let's get going. Okay, myth number 1. You have to have a green thumb to garden. Absolutely not true. Now, many of us do come from gardening families, myself included, where my father's side of the family just gardened their whole lives. Pretty much in my DNA, I thought, but that wasn't true. I made my fair share of mistakes along the way, but oh my goodness, you learn from every single mistake. But if you're afraid to garden and you're afraid to jump right in, I have some great plants for you to start with. Now, if you tend to be more towards a neglectful style of person, or at least you think you are, start with succulents. Succulents are amazing and so easy. If you might forget to water, or if you might forget to, just care for them in general, they are the thrivers of the plant world. Here in Zone 9B, they just grow, honest to goodness. This looks absolutely incredible. It's a succulent garden in a fountain, and believe me, I pay zero attention, zero. Every now and again, I do give it a little bit of water because I am a plants person, and I know they need a little bit of water, and they get the exposure that you wouldn't think they'd even thrive in. They get a lot of shade, and then they get blasted with sun in the afternoon. It doesn't sound like any plant would be thrilled to bits with that, but succulents are. The soil isn't even that deep. You would think it might need deeper soil. Nope, those succulents are thrilled to bits. So you do not have to be born into a gardening family or have a green thumb to get started. In fact, an awful lot of people get started with houseplants because they are smitten with this one particular houseplant. They get so good at that plant, and then their whole world expands into all these other houseplants. And honestly, if you can grow houseplants, you can try your hand at anything. Okay, let's go on to myth number 2, that you need to have expensive soils or expensive pesticides or expensive fertilizers to be able to grow a good garden. Well, that is so not true. Many of us can make our own compost using kitchen scraps, lawn clippings, piles of leaves. Compost making is so much fun, and you make the richest, most fabulous soil amendment ever. You can have worm bins, and use the worm castings from your worm bin to enrich your soil. And it's seriously a myth. You really don't need to spend a ton of soil. No, it seriously is a myth. You don't need to spend a ton of money on purchasing expensive top-of-the-line soils, not for your houseplants, not for anything else. Now, having said that, it is such a time saver if you've just bought yourself a blueberry or an azalea or something like that, and you just want to get that plant planted and walk away, then it is really handy to go get something such as this azalea mix. It's specifically made for acid-loving plants. Another thing I really love, because worm bins are fabulous, but it takes those worms a long time to produce the earthworm castings at the speed you might want to use it. So I do like getting the earthworm castings too. Always like to have a bag of that on hand. Let me remind you, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I just happen to really love this line of products. But yeah, you don't need to spend a ton of money. You have so many resources at hand. And as for pesticides, find my videos on how to take care of earwigs or slugs and snails with really common household items that you have at home. Aphids, you can take care of those by mixing up a mix with soap and dish soap and water. So there are so many things you can do that you don't have to resort to spending money on products. One thing I'm really, really strong about is I will never use an herbicide anywhere. I've seen so many mistakes where somebody trips with some kind of herbicide and kills off the beloved plant as opposed to the weed that they wanted to kill. You know, you learn a lot when you're down on your hands and knees in your garden pulling weeds up or getting that hoe out there. I realize some things like crabgrass totally out of hand and it's very difficult, but if you can avoid using any kind of herbicide, the earth will thank you, your garden will thank you, and all the lovely creatures that you have buzzing around in your garden would much prefer it if you didn't use any of those expensive chemicals. Let's go to myth number 3. Roses are hard to grow. That's the myth. The actual truth about roses, they're not hard to grow at all. They truly, truly aren't. I have a number of videos out there, roses in containers, climbing roses, whatnot. They're really not difficult to grow. Like any other kind of plant, there are some tricks, there's some guidelines, but seriously, every other plant that you want to grow in your garden have tricks and guidelines. And the results of a rose, oh my goodness. Believe me, if you've not grown a rose yet, you're in for a big, big treat and probably the start of a fabulous obsession. Tricks and guidelines, they're supposed to have full sun, which means 6 to 8 hours of sun. As you can see from this climbing cutie behind me, it doesn't get that even. If you learn that all these myths are not actual fact and written in stone, you do tend to play around a little bit in your garden, test the limits. And I tested the limits with this rose. This is climbing Jean La Joie. I have had this beauty for years and years and years. It's a polyantha, which means tons of flowers, basically. Tons of flowers, little mini flowers. I've got a clematis growing up through it. I have it trained on this topiary form, and I'm actually trying to get it to go up the oak tree as well. I am playing like crazy with this plant. It is thrilled to bits. So yeah, no, play around in the rose garden, look for the guidelines. If something is failing, correct if you need to, but they are not hard to grow. All right, let's talk about myth number 4. I think we're on number 4 now, that overwatering is better than underwatering. Now, it's true that both causes a lot of stress in the plants, and it is true that the symptoms kind of look like each other. An underwatered plant gets wilty, yellow. An overwatered plant also gets wilty and yellow. But no, actually, in fact, it is a total myth that overwatering is worse than underwatering. It's the other way around. I have helped so many customers troubleshoot problems with their plants. More often than not, it's overwatering that kills them. So an overwatered plant looks yellow and wilty and sort of floppy and sad and awful. Right now I'm watering my onions, and I'm real careful not to overwater them for a bunch of reasons, because I don't want them floppy and sad and awful and yellow, but also because I want good taste from my onions. I want them firm, I want them good. I don't want them watery. Who wants a watery onion? Same goes for tomatoes. Oh my goodness. Worst thing you can do for your tomato is overwater it. Not only does it cause blossom end rot, but it makes the plant weak, susceptible to fungus, and gives you tomatoes that just don't taste good. They're watery and just like Who wants a watery tomato? You want that full flavored taste of a good, strong tomato. Not a watery, limp, sort of blah tomato. Who wants that? So yeah, overwatering, just as bad or worse than underwatering. Myth number 5, you cannot grow vegetables if you have a shady garden. So not true. So here in Zone 9B, we have our lovely warm summers, and our winters can be a little mild and damp. It doesn't ever get freezing cold or anything. I mean, maybe a couple of nights. But there are so many vegetables that actually prefer to be shaded in the afternoon around here in the summertime. If you love peas, if you love Swiss chard, if you love radishes, carrots, beets, all of those are cool weather crops. So if you have a shady space in your garden all summer long, that's where you want to grow those vegetables. Lettuce, even though there's so many varieties of lettuce that can take the summer heat, so many more of them actually prefer to be shaded all afternoon long. So you got a shady spot like this, you can grow lettuce, peas, beets, carrots, radishes, Swiss chard, so many beautiful, nutritious greens. You're not deprived at all. And there's also some fruit that really don't mind the shade at all. My Meyer lemon behind me, it gets 5 or 6 hours of sun in the morning, no sun most of the afternoon, and then a little bit of a blast at the very end of the day. I have so many lemons from that lemon tree, it is unbelievable. So lemons, you can do that too. Blueberries really appreciate a little bit of afternoon shade also. They seem to perform better around here. They definitely withstand any heat waves a lot better if they're in afternoon shade. So yeah, no, you can grow so many edibles if you have a shade garden. And yet another myth, that you can just plant your garden, lay out your landscape, get it dug in, and walk away, and it's going to stay the same. It's not a plug and play sort of a situation in a garden. Every single plant is a living, growing creature, basically, and it needs monitoring. It needs checking on. Are there pests? Is that plant getting enough water? Has it grown out of bounds and you might need to move it? Or switch it out for a different plant that fits the look that you're going for. So that's gardening, and I love that. Now, definitely there are more low maintenance sort of landscapes that you can grow, where you do a little more of that plug and play, walk away sort of a situation. Personally, I get so much from gardening, so much from walking through every day and checking on things, how they're growing, how they're interacting with the plants beside them. Is that the look I was going for? I wouldn't trade this for anything. I love the fact that everything in my garden changes all the time. Changes with the seasons, changes with the weather, changes sometimes if there's pests sweeping through. But if you keep going on out there and you keep checking on everything on a pretty frequent basis, you don't get too many horrible surprises. You get to stay on top of it. You get to rethink. You get to create. You create magic in your garden. You watch the butterflies coming through. You spot the first swallowtail or monarch. Honestly, it's totally magical. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Definitely would not like to be putting some plant that never did anything in my garden and just stayed exactly as I put it in the first place. That would be suspicious. If I ever start doing that, I don't know. But I'm sure it's got its values. I'm sure it's got its values. So there we go. There's that myth debunked. It is ever changer, ever growing, absolutely fabulous. And I cannot tell you how much joy I get out of my garden from that very fact. Always doing something different every day of the week. All right, this brings me to the next myth, number 7, that all plants love a dose of coffee grounds. Well, that is just simply not true. Coffee grounds are beloved by any of the acid-loving plants, such as my favorite blueberry of all time that I've got so many blueberries from, or azaleas or rhododendrons and camellias too. But Some of those other plants, such as a hellebore, such as most of your vegetables, absolutely can't, they can't tolerate too much acidity at all. Hellebores really can't. And so many of the others really don't like it either, and they're going to start struggling if you just willy-nilly put coffee grounds on everything. And that is something that I overheard one customer telling another the other day to do for their cucumbers. Absolutely not. Please don't do such a thing. That is not going to help your cucumbers at all. On the other hand, there are so many acid lovers that it actually will help. And that is an amazing way to get that soil acidified exactly to the level that your blueberry or azalea or rhododendron is really going to appreciate. So what I do, I save up the coffee grounds from a few days or a week or whatever. This is about 3 days worth of coffee, and I love my coffee. By the way, you can also use freshly ground coffee, not have it be used, but perfectly good coffee should not just be given straight to your plant. You need to enjoy your coffee first. And honestly, it's even a little bit better like this. The way I do it, I have my trusty little watering can. I mix in a little bit of used coffee grounds. My favorite coffee, Peach French Roast. Again, nobody is sponsoring me. I also love this great Italian coffee from Kimbo over in Italy. Fantastic. I get it to the color I'm really going for, which is nice, rich coffee grounds mixed up with water. Let me show you. It just looks like a really nice tea. And I don't water my blueberry with this every time, but maybe every couple of weeks when I've saved up enough coffee grounds. You can let it soak the grounds in your watering can for a couple of hours if you like, even overnight. And that way you're giving it even a better boost of caffeine. But right now, I'm just giving it to it pretty straight, pretty fresh. What's really nice too is if you've already ground up your coffee, you've already used it, you've pre-moistened it, breaks down even quicker, adds another little bit of acidity to your blueberry, and it's really, really gonna like it. Like I said, azaleas, rhodies, camellias, any other acid lovers, they're gonna love something like this. But anybody who likes the other thing, alkaline soil or even a neutral soil, won't appreciate this. Myth busted. You know who else is going to love a little bit of extra acidity? Any other of your citruses, not just your Meyer lemon. This is a fabulous little orange called Vanilla Sanguino. So it's basically a vanilla flavored blood orange. Now I'm not too sure if the Bacopa is going to be thrilled to bits with it, so I'm really being very careful to water away from the Bacopa and just where I know my little orange tree is going to get it. Okay, finally, one myth you're really going to like to hear about being debunked is that all weeds are bad. That is so not true. A weed is really just a plant that is growing in a spot that you didn't plan on it for. And yes, some weeds are a total pain in the neck, but other weeds are so, so valuable. So think twice before you do your vigorous weeding or rake up a whole area that may actually be a bunch of poppies growing, not dandelions like you thought so, and leave things for the pollinators. So many of the weeds in my garden, like there's wild mustard, there is just so many accidental plants up there. But apart from that, there's cleavers. Now cleavers is this sticky plant that is sticky for a start. It has all these tiny little hooks on it. Green, sticky. When we were kids, because we had this in Ireland as well, you would torture each other and all your cousins by sticking cleavers all over each other. But the other great thing about cleavers is it grows this time of year, and when it's fresh and green like this, it is the perfect plant to make into a tonic. It's fresh, almost smells a little bit like chamomile and wheatgrass mixed up. Makes a really incredible tonic, and it's super easy to make Basically, chop it up as small as you can, pour boiling water over it, let it steep for at least 20 minutes, strain it and drink it. And it is health promoting, cleansing, calming, everything and more that you would want from any herb that you would actually be growing in your garden on purpose. So this particular cleaver plant right here, I never planted it. Yes, it's a weed, but I make the most of it. And you too can make the most of the accidental plants that pop up in your garden. Learn to tell what's a weed that you really seriously don't want, what is a weed that the pollinators are going to appreciate when it gets to go to full flower. Learn what weeds you can make tonics out of and improve your health, your digestion, your calmness, and all the other things that you would want from any herb that you grew on purpose. Another weed I want to talk about real quick before we finish up that is so great is purslane. Now it's a little bit early now. It's a really full-on summer weed, and you're going to see it form little juicy green mats along the ground. Maybe I'll do a whole video about purslane later on. My goodness, what a powerhouse of nutrients that is. It's amazing. It's also called verdolaga. It is amazing, chopped up, put in scrambled eggs, cooked as a green. It's really quite incredible. A free plant, otherwise known as a weed, full of nutrition for you. So there you go, everybody. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was helpful. I'm still picking cleavers off myself here, but I will be making tea in just a minute. So I hope you loved it. There's a whole bunch of myths debunked for you. Share with me, what did you hear that you found out that really wasn't true as well? I mean, the internet has information, neighbors have information, cousins in different part of the world has information, and you need to find for yourself what's true, what isn't true. But today's video hopefully put a whole bunch of those myths away for you. So I hope this empowers you to get out and do some more experimenting in your garden. Don't be afraid. Get on out there, create some magic. There are guidelines, but sometimes guidelines are meant to be broken, and you can go out and discover new truths for your very own self in your very own garden. All right, people, so find me on Facebook or Instagram. Drop me a comment. Tell me something you learned this week. I would love that so, so much. Or drop by Cottage Gardens of Petaluma. I'm there most days, but Cottage is open 9 to 5 every single day, and you're absolutely going to love it. All right, till next time, happy gardening, everybody.